when in doubt, have some fucking fun.
Yes. Today I have joining me Kev Legend. I love his name. He is a legend. And yeah, we're going to get into some deep topics today. Kev, I would love for you
I'm very happy that I went through all of it and, not in it, but now looking back, would I still choose to go through everything I went through? Absolutely. And it's crazy. The Hummer and this house and that house and this flight. And like, that is all like crap. If you don't love yourself and feel good about what you're doing in the world, everything else is just an add-on.
Welcome to Unmasked Founders with Leslie Kay. This is the podcast that goes beyond the highlight reel of entrepreneurship. Instead of focusing on the accolades and achievements, this show explores the real moments that shape founders, the challenges, the breakthroughs, and the lessons that transform both the business and the human behind it. Hosted by me, Leslie Kay, an entrepreneur who has built empires and discovered the cost of success. Unmasked Founders is a space for honest conversations about growth, resilience, and staying true to who you are. Whether listeners are just starting out or scaling to the next level, this is where real stories are told. Welcome to Unmasked Founders, a conversation with me, Leslie Kay.
Welcome back to Unmasked Founders, where we get to the bottom of the stories behind the mask of success and behind the highlight reels on Instagram and get into some deep and personal stories of what it truly takes to be a founder. Today, I have joining me Kev Legend. I love his name. He is a legend. And yeah, we're going to get into some deep topics today. Kev, I would love for you to start with some of your successes, some of your wins. So before we take you into the depths, I'll let the audience get a little feel for who you are and what you've achieved.
Before we go into the depths of despair, let's go to Mount Everest and talk about some of the good stuff. I love that. Getting me ready. Getting everybody ready. Yeah, thanks so much. I absolutely love doing this stuff. And it's so important to share the highs, but also the lows, because it's scary to share the lows sometimes, right? And I feel like once you do, you realize how freeing it is and how helpful it is and how good it makes you feel. So thanks for the opportunity. I'm stoked, ready to go. I'm Kev Legend. I am a LGBT change agent and coach. So I help with a lot of areas that surround finance, wealth growth, and personal growth and transformation. And so I've been doing that for about 5 years, doing wealth coaching for about 10 years. And so I started out in a small town in New Jersey. So I've been in America, although I've traveled and lived all over the world, which has been so amazing, and definitely recommend anybody who's listening to just go see the world and get out of where you're at, because there's so much else to experience. But I was lucky enough to serve in the military. I went to the U.S. Naval Academy, graduated in 2012, and then was stationed out in San Diego. So I went from the East Coast to the West Coast. I did some tours off of the coast of Iraq and Iran, and then I came back. And although I loved being in the military, I said I really want to help people with coaching and making more money. I didn't come from a lot of money. I was actually quite poor. And so I started doing financial coaching, wealth coaching, and grew my business, in 5 years from pretty much nothing, just me, a solo entrepreneur, talking to anybody who would listen, all the way to, a 5,500 square foot office with 12 advisors doing, several million a year. That sounds great and fun and dandy, but it was a lot of work. And I learned a lot about myself getting to that point. So I love talking to people about coaching, wealth management, and pushing themselves beyond the limits I think that they believe they can even achieve, right? Which is crazy, because there is so much out there in the devil or the devilish in our heads that tells us that we can't accomplish this or can't accomplish that. And I'm like, who says, So a lot of what I do is, whether it's wealth coaching or brand coaching or life coaching, it's attacking those even in the tough times.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, so much resonance, similar stories, very poor, a lot of wealth, and then a lot of side quests just to make sure the book that I'm writing is interesting.
Right.
We'd love to start with the question, what does it cost you? What did success cost you?
I think success costed me myself, which is crazy to even think about because, you know, when you think of maybe yourself pre-success, you're always, or at least for me, I was shooting for success. For me, success was at the top of the mountain. And then I get to the top of the mountain and I'm like, is this what I was working toward? Because there were a lot of things that I attained and got to that is what I wanted. But I even began to question if that was what I truly wanted, or if that is what I felt like I wanted, or was coached, or society is, tells us that we want. And so there were parts of me that since losing success and then regaining it, which is, I don't know if that's the second round of the podcast or we can cover some of that today, but I realized in getting to the top, I sacrificed a lot of things that I stood for to achieve a lot of material success, which, I mean, granted, if you look around, money runs the world. So some sort of material success is having that materialism as part of your journey is important, especially if you're trying to work and achieve, numbers-based goals, wealth-based goals and stuff. But I lost some of the fun. I lost some of the play. I lost who I feel like I was me. I feel like I shrunk to fit into a mold, which for me, I don't feel like I've ever really fit into any mold, which, I
was like, you in a mold, really?
Yeah, like, and then once I've realized that I make the mold and that I can mold it however I want to be, as long as I'm aligned and being truly me, then I'll probably feel way more fulfilled. So I definitely lost parts of me that since I've been trying to remember.
I love that. And yeah, so many through lines. And I have this suspicion that a lot of people that I speak to on here are going to have a similar sentiment, because I was running towards success. I thought the ultimate goal was make more money and get an office that overlooked the river and buy a Range Rover and have 10 designer handbags. And I kind of got to this pinnacle of success and I was like, oh, I actually hate my life. And I lost a lot of myself. I lost my relationship with my then husband. I lost time with my son. And I kind of woke up one day and I was like, well, what is this all for? Who am I actually? And what do I really want? Because for so long, I blindly followed this, I don't know, societal expectation, I think pressure, because like you say, the world is run on money. It does afford freedoms and you can buy a lot of things, but you can't buy back time. So yeah, very, very true in what you say. And I kind of love that you've had that journey. I feel the best entrepreneurs do. What was the biggest mask that you wore?
That I loved myself as much as I told other people that they should.
Oof.
It's a good one. And I told you I'll give it to you on this because it's so important. And even saying that, I just felt my whole body surge, to be honest. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to say that, because we don't say it enough. I'm a huge lover, right? I love to provide. I love to give. And part of my success was truly to provide to a lot of people who didn't deserve it, to be honest, which, hey, I've come to terms with that. And I've still said to myself, I probably wouldn't have done it differently because that's what I needed at that time in my life.
Really, yeah.
But what I definitely needed more was to have some motherfucking boundaries. Excuse me. Sorry.
No, swearing's fine on here. We're unmasked.
Okay, good. Okay. Have some boundaries for your damn self. You know what I mean? Take yourself on a date, figure out what you want and need that is outside any other person. Because I would wake up and part of the, you could say healer, you could say coach, you could say motivator, is that when you start changing lives and impacting lives, it's addicting. It's a drug and you want it and you need it and you love it. But the drawback to that I've found is if you're not giving that to yourself.
Really?
And I wasn't. It was more for other people constantly. And it started to become this, it felt like it felt like I was truly tapping into part of my purpose, which is giving back, but I wasn't doing it in a way that I also loved myself, because I was loving everybody else so much that I was molding myself into becoming who other people needed me to be, rather than who I needed to be for myself, for other people. And so when you're, somebody comes to you for advice, of what, whether it's a client or a friend or whatever, and you can give advice, but deep down, deep down, that you're not giving yourself the same advice and you're not taking it. It wears on you over time. And then that's when the imposter syndrome and personal fraud begins to kick in. And then the self-trust is out the window because of it. And so I would say over the last 2 to 3 years, and we talked about this when we first started chatting, is that I've been on a 2 to 3 year self-discovery, because I have lost myself so much. And with the focus of loving myself as much as I possibly can, forgiving myself as much as I possibly can, and also trying to have an inner dialogue with myself. Why did I go do that? Right? Like, it's just me here, it's me and me. So why can't I be my biggest fan and be kinder to myself and love myself up here, so that I can show up in the world in the ways that I've always wanted to?
Yeah, I love that. So many gold nuggets. And I think a lot of people wear that mask. And again, it was very similar for me. People would say, oh my God, you're so confident. Like, how are you so confident? And secretly, I hated myself. So yeah, it's wild. It's one of the reasons I named the podcast what I did, and why I want to have these conversations, because I also don't think people are aware that they're not the only ones that are faking it till they make it, or suppressing, I don't like the darkness inside of them, or the parts of them that they don't deem lovable or acceptable. So, the whole intention is, if founders are out there listening and they might be at the beginning of their journey, maybe they've hit the pinnacle and they're in the down, maybe they've lost a company or lost a relationship. For me, this space is really, how can we give hope back to those people? And how can we share parts of our journey to be like, hey, you're not alone. By the time I finish this podcast or carry on this podcast, I hope to have hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs and founders that have gone through that hero's journey, or maybe they're constantly going through that hero's journey until they notice the pattern, whatever it might be. So I love that you shared so openly and honestly. And I am a big believer that, everything happens for a reason, and that there's no failures, there's only lessons. But with the awareness that you have now, what would you have done differently?
I would have just given myself, I would have started having a more intentional relationship with myself sooner. I really think that that's it. Because if you do that, it then makes it easier to not do the things that that you don't want to do, but you might feel pressure to do, or fill in the blank. I always say the longest and the most important relationship that you'll ever have is the one with yourself. And so if you don't have a relationship with yourself, then what an opportunity to start, right today, right now,
Really?
here and the now. And it doesn't have to be this huge life change. It could be the small things. For me, it started with, skincare, because that's something that hey, it's beneficial for my skin. And it's giving me time every day, 20, 30 minutes, sometimes longer, to really just take care of myself. And then I started to realize, hey, this feels really good. And then maybe it's the gym, and then maybe it's meditating or reading or just doing. My husband and I, there are things that he does that I just have zero interest in, zero, none, absolute. I don't want to go. I don't want to do it. And, insecure Kev, or not fully aligned, centered Kev, would go and do those things and then get mad at myself for doing them, or mad at him for having those hobbies. How dare he? And I realized, no, this is an opportunity, oh my gosh, for maybe me to go do something that I like to do that he doesn't want to do, and vice versa. So the deeper relationship you have with yourself, the more honest you can be, the less judgmental you can be, the more it's going to open up an opportunity for you, but then for what you can do with and for the world.
Yeah, I love this. And I'm going to bounce off what you were saying before as well about boundaries and actually having self-respect, because I think when you say have a relationship with yourself, some people are like, well, of course I do. I'm with myself every day. That's not a relationship. If you're not taking yourself on dates, if you don't know what your triggers are, if you don't know what makes you happy, if you don't know what hobbies you want to do or don't want to do, if you're people pleasing and saying yes to everything just to keep the peace, then you're not in deep enough relationship with yourself. And
Totally agree.
again, the journey that and relationship work is also not just self-care, bubble baths and facials and massages. Like, I actually think that's a necessary part into your skin routine. That's like showing yourself how much you love yourself through like acts of service for yourself, basically. However, I think some people are like, well, I got a massage or I went to the gym and that's it. That's their self-care. For me, self-care is also self-reflection, and self-love is I love myself enough to call myself on my BS, and I love myself enough to keep moving in the direction of the version of me that truly loves myself. And it's, what's your health like? What's your love life like? What is your mental health like? What's your joy and pleasure like? Because a lot of people say I'm fine, but if you ask them when was the last time they laughed, or when was the last time they felt pleasure outside of sex, by the way, I just want to add that in. It's like, yes, sex is great and pleasurable, but I mean, like, allowed yourself to feel the pleasure of the grass on your feet, or the pleasure of eating a fresh mango. And if you're triggered by that word, which I used to be when I didn't have a relationship with myself or my pleasure, then maybe that's a place to start.
Sure.
Yeah, so I just love this sentiment of build a relationship with yourself. And I say similar, you don't need to take plant medicine. Deepen your relationship with yourself, get in a relationship, or build a business. And they're like the three key areas of constant feedback loops so you can keep evolving. So anyone that's listening that's like, oh, how do I get into a relationship with myself? Like, what does this guy mean? What are some tips beyond workouts? Because I think that's imperative. Self-care routines like facials. Is there any other like practical ways people can start to deepen that self-relationship?
Yeah. So I always think about what I am thinking about. What are my thoughts? And do they have any business hanging out in my head? Because if they don't, then they're either not mine, I inherited them from someone else, I took them from another conversation, whatever it is. I don't mean for this to sound a certain way, but sometimes our opinions and thoughts and behaviors and habits are not even ones that we want to have, but they just already are with us because of our friend group, because of our family, because of our work environment, because of where you live. And I started to just not question things. Like, I'm not a skeptical person because I feel like I can, formulate an opinion on my own. But, do I feel like that thought is really what I feel? Or did that just like kind of come all up in here? And do I need to just sit with that for a second and then like kick it on out? And I think that even in itself, and having the awareness to realize that maybe not all of our thoughts are ours instinctually, right? Like, if I maybe have a pitch meeting and I prepared the fuck out of that pitch meeting and it just didn't go well. I have two options, you know what I mean? I can say, hey, Kev, you know what? You did your best. You prepared for this meeting. You did everything you possibly could. It didn't go the way that it was meant to. Maybe there's a reason why it didn't go the way that it was meant to, but good job. Keep on keeping on. Or I can go into like a rabbit hole of despair and just start beating myself up about how it went and then not learn anything from it. And so I'm always on a quest to find more information about how I react to things and what my thoughts are. And then from there, trying to figure out, is this mine? And can I feel differently about it? And choosing to feel differently about it. And it's not easy to do. Like, that is not even somebody who's probably made the decision to really do that about a year and a half ago. And I'd say I'm much better at it now than I was a year and a half ago. But there are still days, where you're just wrecked and you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna feel this, but I'm gonna really try to remember who I am. And that has helped me a ton.
Yeah, I love that. I used to have a mean girl inside of my head. And I used to try and ignore her or push her away or work harder so I didn't have to listen to her. And then one day I stopped and started asking her questions. Like, why do you feel this way? Why do you say that about yourself? Who told you that was true? And when I started to journal on it and look in the mirror and ask myself questions, or I put my hand on my heart, and to me that signals I'm with my little girl, the younger parts of me. And I'll literally just get in a dialogue with, and especially when I'm in a trigger still. So the mean girl's rarely there now, but if I'm in a trigger, she's loud. So,
yeah.
So I will just be like, oh, baby girl, what do you need? And sometimes simply asking yourself that question, and I'll do a lot of this in client work that I'll do, is actually get them to open a dialogue with their younger self and the emotion that comes of that, because we kind of forget that there's a younger, more tender part still in there somewhere. Most people, and I'm going to say especially entrepreneurs that haven't done the work, assume they're 30, 40, however old they are now. But until you have awareness, you're actually operating as a 7-year-old or an 11-year-old, or at whatever age a lot of your, not even trauma, just a lot of your belief systems were formed. You're actually operating in the world at that level of awareness and that level of consciousness. And you might be really intelligent and you're like, well, that's not true. But emotionally, you're probably acting like an 11-year-old or a 4-year-old. So yeah, I think for anyone listening that wants a relationship, just to Kev's point and to grow on that, stop and ask yourself questions, especially if it's not a nice voice, or you can't do that, or you shouldn't have done that, or you should have done that better, or if you had of, and just really curiosity is what I say. You don't fight fire with fire. You don't tell it to shut up. For me, it's just get really curious with why that voice is saying what it's saying, and just follow that thread of curiosity, and you'll find something. There's always gold at the end of that thread that you pull, and it might feel uncomfortable, but I promise you, the more you deepen that self-relationship, the better your life becomes.
When in doubt, have some fucking fun.
Yes.
Have some fun. You know what I mean? I'll do some fun shit in my head, but it's nobody knows. Because we're with our thoughts all the time, and they've been there forever, and they're not going anywhere.
Yes.
We forget that people can't hear what you're thinking. And so you can think anything. You could think whatever you want to, good, bad, positive, negative. And if I'm really going through it and my, internal checklist is not working, I'll be like, how can I have some fun with this right now?
Yeah.
And that lightens the mood, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. So when I remind myself that, I feel a little safer. Nice. And I'm like, you know what? This is my world. This is my universe. Up in
I
here.
make the rules here.
I make the rules here. So I'm going to do whatever I need to in order to get through this. And maybe right now, the only thing that I can do is to try to joke around and have some fun in my head.
I love that. Kev, you've had some big highs, and I imagine some pretty devastating lows. What were some tools and resources, and even if it was a micro resource, that got you from those lows to for me, it's always what's the next step. So I think sometimes if your whole world's been wiped out or you've had an epiphany and you've realized that the money and the, everything's not really worth it. In those moments where you were, brought to your knees again, what was the things that you relied on to bring yourself back, I guess?
Sleep is so important. Not oversleep, but healthy sleep, and movement. for me, I always, if I'm working with a client or if a friend or a business or somebody's struggling and they're feeling small, I'll ask them, well, how expansive do you feel like your month is? So if your home base is at point A, how many other points are you going to in a month? Because for some people, especially with work from home, especially if you're not, around people all the time, how many other points than point A do you have? Is it point A is your home, and then point B is the gym, and then maybe point C is your girlfriend or boyfriend, and then point D is a favorite restaurant? Can we add more points to that? Can you go to the park? Can you go and do this? Just add some more data points. That way you feel more expansive, because, when you go from me to making, 3 to 5 million a year to making negative money, your worth is really questioned. Really, really questioned. And the easiest way, I think, to not feel so worthy is, regardless of if you've done well in the past or if you're just starting out, is to feel like you're not living, to feel like you're stuck.
Quick pause. Are these conversations resonating with you? Do you finally feel seen in your business journey? This is the entire mission of Unmasked Founders. To strip back the highlight reel and tell the raw truth about multi, 6 and 7-figure success. We're here for the emotional costs, the days you want to quit, and the breakthroughs that follow. And we can bring you these essential conversations thanks to the support of our incredible partners, Cacao Collective and the OE Agency. These are the businesses who empower founders to keep going, providing the systems and the professional polish you need when you're busy navigating the emotional storm. If you love what you're hearing, don't miss an episode. Hit that subscribe button right now and check out Cacao Collective and the OE Agency in the show notes. Now, let's get back to it.
And a lot of what we do is habitual. A lot of what we do is on repeat, which, is great. I love a system. Being in the military, like, it makes me feel good. But in those moments where you're not feeling your best, I think it's really important to try to expand if you can, even if it's something as spontaneous as just like taking a different route to work or to the gym. Just try to experience new, because I think when we experience new, we then feel more worthy and then are able to push ourselves beyond whatever limiting beliefs it is that we're telling ourselves at that low point.
So true. So true. I love that. I come back to similar. I think movement and change of environment. And it's really important to be around positive people.
Yes.
If you're in an environment where everyone, it's like, that want to say, I told you so, if you failed in business, for example, like maybe your family didn't believe in you, and then you're spending a lot of time around your family because maybe you have lost your home or whatever it might be. It's really crucial to put yourself in environments that give you back faith and hope and trust. Again, why I created the podcast, because when this happened to me, I closed my business with one of my businesses with a $3 million ATO debt. So not only was my income source gone, I, for a period of time, didn't know what was going to happen with that debt. So a tax debt, ATO is the Australian Tax Office. Yeah, and it was really important. Was going through a divorce at the time. It's like my whole world collapsed on itself. I ended up getting a payout from the business, sold out the assets. So I literally just left. I left Australia. I traveled with no plan, well, what am I going to do after this? I just trusted that I couldn't stay in the energy of, and I want to actually clarify, it wasn't avoidance of responsibility. Everything was taken care of.
Of course.
I'm a mother, so I could only go for 3 weeks at a time. It wasn't an avoidance strategy. It was I just need to remove myself from, I think as well, when you're like, especially if you've got community in the business that you build, it's like it's not like, I was having a huge ego death. I was having this like existential crisis of, well, everyone knows me as the world's best recruiter and everyone celebrated me building these multi-million-dollar recruitment businesses. And now I can't show my face back in the business world because what are they going to think of me? And I created this whole fear around what had happened, and this lack of self-worth because of what had happened. And really, a lot of business owners, or in a lot of business circles, until you've actually gone through a corporate restructure, you haven't earned your stripes in business. And the more people I spoke to, and the less I stopped hiding, basically, and because I was making this like narrative, I had this story in my head that my life was over and I was never going to be able to run a business ever again. And it literally was the best business experience. You cannot learn this stuff in business school. It's so funny. I was, a couple of months after, I was sitting in a Institute of Company Directors training, and they were talking about insolvencies and corporate compliance, and it was very helpful to actually have had that experience, because I knew the process hand in hand, and also it eroded the fear that failure was going to kill me, because oftentimes we don't try because we think we're going to die or fail or whatever it might be. And it gave me an actual lived experience of, oh, I was fine. In fact, my life got better after that lesson that I learned. And so now I have more audacity in business, because I know what it's like to, one, grow really big, also have big lessons, because I don't like to use the word failures, but it kind of gave my nervous system this knowing that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. At the end of the day, no one actually cared. And it's actually made me a way better business mentor and leader, because I know the signs to look out for when shit's starting to go wrong. And I also know the mind frame and mindset that I was in and what I was ignoring for me to then hit that wall so hard and so fast. So yeah, I love that. I love the change of environment. And if you can, and if you have the capacity to travel, I think getting overseas, like going to Bali, being in a world where, like you were saying, you're not in the same like rinse and repeat. I think we can loop in our mind if we're looping in our routine, basically. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think we had a similar story. But I think we were joking about this when we first chatted. I lost, I think, like everything that I associated myself with. So it was like, I look back at it now, obviously, I guess not obviously, I'm very happy that I went through all of it and, not in it, but now looking back, would I still choose to go through everything I went through? Absolutely. And it's crazy to even think that, because, so, the hardest part of my life, I ended up leaving LA, very similar after a divorce. I had a fair amount of friends, in the divorce kind of go one direction. And I just wasn't liking how it was all feeling. It didn't align with who I felt like I was becoming. And so my, friendships, business, I had a significant ego death, but it was who I felt like I was showing up in the world was changing so much and not in alignment with a lot of the things that were in my past. And so I was like, who am I? Which is a lovely question to ask yourself, by the way. But you have to be ready to go down the route of answering that, right? Once you ask it. So it can be a scary one for those out there who might be wanting to ask themselves that. Just be ready to probably not know, because I thought I was everything that I had shed. And turns out that was just a shell that I was really unhappily broadcasting to the world, but not admitting to myself that I was. And so I left LA also, and I went to Bali, and I lived in Asia, Singapore, Australia for a little bit. And it was exactly what I needed to find or remember who I actually am. I'm a huge believer in, you can't heal where you're hurting. So if you are in a situation where, maybe it's your turn and life's got some lessons for you, and you do have the luxury to not run away, right? Because pain, your responsibilities and the lessons, they're waiting, and they will outrun you and outpace you regardless of how long you think you can push them away. So
actually, I would say they're hiding in an invisible backpack right there on your fucking back. You haven't left where they came with you. Trust me.
Yeah. Like they're still there. So, and they won't stop. So it really is in your best interest when you have the time to acknowledge them and work through them and work with them, because really they are on your side. It's just a different sensation that we are not usually accustomed to. And it's not necessarily lovely, but if you're, a finder like me and you're really wanting the answers, you'll eventually realize that this is exactly what you needed for whatever stage in your life you're about to go into.
Yeah, I love that so deeply. So deeply. You came to Bali in Australia. I actually went to the States. I went and did 3 weeks in Costa Rica and 3 weeks in Mexico, and I spent a lot of time in the Americas. I just love, and then Bali, because I'm in Western Australia. It's a 3-hour flight, so Bali's not really a getaway for me. It's like another state of Australia. What was one of the scariest moments you faced in business?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably going back in, like I mean, all of the shit was shitty. You know what I mean? So like, at a certain point, it's all the same. But and of course that was scary, but I also am just like, I'm not going to die. You know what I mean? I do have options. The downward slope is scary for the ego, but it's not, I don't think it's
great for the soul. Scary for the ego, but great for the soul.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think at the end of the day, like, I know I'm going to be fine. I'm going to make it. It just doesn't feel like it because I'm choosing to take yesterday's feelings and emotions and bring them with me, right? If there's anything that anybody can do is you wake up, you ask yourself, what are yesterday's thoughts that I am not bringing with myself today? You ask yourself that and you really, really try, you can probably make a good amount more progress than you think that you would. I think going back into it is where I had to just fight through fear that I had not felt in 15 years of creating maybe in the first few years because everybody's figuring out what they're good at. But I mean, when I was at my top of Mount Everest, I wasn't scared. I wasn't fearful. I wasn't, I think I'm a pretty humble kind of guy, but every salesperson, every entrepreneur has a little bit of edge and cockiness to them. You've got to, especially with what you've created, but it wasn't anything that was off-putting. And I was like, where is everything that I'm used to? And that's what scared the fuck out of me, because that's when I said, are you going to be able to do this? Like, can you create even half of what you did before? Like, but then that's the ego, right? So then the ego comes back and you're like, what are you doing here? Get out of here, right? And so it was really scary for me to go back and expose myself, because I kept telling myself, very similar to you, that wasn't going to make it, or everybody knows how I'm doing. When in reality, like, I would hop onto calls and stuff like that, and people would be like, yeah, you're a multimillionaire. And I'm like, little do they know, I'm rebuilding from the ground up here. And that to me was scary because I hadn't felt insecurity and fear and lack of self-worth and self-trust in a good amount of time, right? We all feel it. And, you walk on stage and you feel it for a little bit, or you get that quick feeling right before an important call. But this sensation, it was a cloud over my head, and it was pouring, and it was really scary because I was questioning whether or not I was a fraud, and if I was lying to myself about what I was going to be able to accomplish again. And I had to realize that it's a process, and that it's a rebirth, and that it's okay, and that it's not really where it's not, having tons of money in my bank account and having, the Hummer and this house and that house and this flight. And that is all crap if you don't love yourself and feel good about what you're doing in the world. Everything else is just an add-on. So if you can get out of your head and realize everything that you are experiencing is for you and how to work with it, it'll be way less scary.
Yeah, I love that. And I had similar. It's like when I took 12 months off actually, and not everyone has the benefit of having a high 6-figure payout from a company exit, So I'm very blessed, and thank you, God, for the grace that afforded me to actually spend time to heal, spend time getting to know myself, spend time actually, finding out the root cause of everything that went wrong in my life, basically. But yeah, for a minute when I came back into it, I was like, can I do this? Like, and the integration, I think, of like heart with ego, because before I didn't give a fuck. I was ruthless. I was like, I don't care. I'll make money from anyone, even if they don't need what I'm selling. And to then have that ego death and have that adjustment and have that realization, I think I actually had to rebuild the trust with myself. Like, can I trust myself to do this? And that has been a process. And even sometimes now I check in with that, because I, to some degree, almost have like PTSD from the whole experience. And I need to constantly be in relationship with the fear and the doubt and the self-responsibility to continue to build in a way that's integral, that's ethical, that's based in my values, that I'm not going to sacrifice myself or my needs or my desires anymore. Or if I do have boundaries, or if I do, spend half the day laying in the sun, can I really grow a business if I'm not ruthless and not driving myself into the ground and not on the verge of burnout every other month? And that has been a process to unlearn, to relearn, to find grace, to get it wrong, to do it again, to just keep moving through the rebirth and evolution of how I lead, how I love, how I build life and business and everything. So yeah, I think that's a great reminder, invitation for those that might be on the edge or are thinking about blowing up their lives and starting again. I would say don't do it without someone holding your hand. If you can afford to have someone hold your hand, get someone to hold your hand through it. But I always say to the women that I coach, the reason I became the woman I am is because I'm who I wanted when I hit this point in my life. So like, I had business coaches, but they only wanted to talk about the business. And I'm like, can someone just see that I'm struggling? Can someone just see that I fucking hate everything? Can someone just ask a deep enough question that they actually can feel the pain and fear and suffering that I'm feeling? Because everyone saw the multi-million-dollar business, the end. No one saw the scared little girl that had no fucking idea what she was doing. No one saw, and no one cared enough to, and I take that back. I think if they had had more awareness, they would have cared. It's that they hadn't built the own awareness in themselves, and they probably were too afraid to ask themselves those questions, which is why they weren't asking them of me. So yeah, I became the coach, the mentor, the leader that I am, because I wanted someone to help me keep my business but find myself again. And I do believe that's possible. Like, a lot of the women that I coach, 6 months in, they're like, oh, it's like I got my life back and my passion for my business back again. And I feel like I can breathe again. So yeah, I think it's really a great conversation, because when I first started this journey, I felt like I was free falling. I felt like, and I was afraid to start actually for a long period of time. I say breathwork was my gateway drug, because I actually did breathwork to reduce stress so I could work harder to earn more money. But it cracked something inside of me and really started to allow me to be in my experience, because for so long I was sleepwalking through my whole existence, and I was on autopilot through my whole existence. So yeah, I love bringing this into the conversation, because for those that are listening that are terrified, there's one thing I want you to know, is that your ego would rather keep you stuck in a familiar hell than allow you to evolve to an unfamiliar heaven. So what that means is you've likely got a routine, whether you're happy with it or not. Like, you get up, you get your kids to school or daycare, you go to the office, maybe you eat some lunch, maybe you do some exercise, get your work done, come home, cook dinner, rinse and repeat every single day. And even though consciously you're like, fuck, can I do another day of this? And you think I'm living in a fucking hell, because there's safety in repetition, your brain's like, oh yeah, I love this. This is great. I feel so safe here. Let's do this for the rest of our lives. What you really want is an evolution into more awareness and more joy and more conscious decisions, and probably actually only working 4 hours a day because humans weren't designed to work 8-hour days, but that's a whole other conversation. And you're terrified because there's no safety in that. I don't know whether I'm going to survive in actually being happy and having pleasure and joy and time for myself. Why would I do that? It's terrifying. So yeah, I love that you've brought that awareness in of the rebuild and the reprogramming of it's possible to do this. We're just doing it differently this time.
When you're a wealth coach, financial advisor, we all have our little sound bites, right? So things that we say quite frequently that like help the process. And one that has stuck with me that I felt like was going to come up today is past performance doesn't equal future results. And we say that a lot when we're talking, with somebody who wants to build an empire. And the tricky part is that it's true, right? I mean, in life, in building money, really in most things, but we can also use that to our advantage if you're in a slump and you're like, holy cow, am I gonna make it? Because why wouldn't you be able to make it if you are ready in the, why not? Why wouldn't you, especially if you're listening and you've created something, why couldn't you create maybe even something better because you've experienced life? I've been trying to change the relationship that I have with pain. It's an interesting one. Because we're conditioned to obviously not love pain. I feel like I feel my body change even when I say the word pain. But pain is really just a sensation, just like joy is, and just like any other sensation is. It's just one that we don't love that much. But then why don't we love it? So, I stub my foot, or, I'm experiencing sadness or whatever. And it takes a good amount of work to even get to the point where you can do that. But I'm like, can I just feel this for a second, right? And then maybe have it not be so bad, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain or fear or whatever. It's still there, but it's just a sensation.
My biggest thing with this is I've studied Tantra for 6 years, and one of my teachers said to me, pleasure and pain are the opposite sides of the same coin. So if you want to throw out your pain, you're also throwing out your pleasure. And so anytime I feel pain, I almost actually celebrate it because I know that the depth of the pain that I feel is the heights of the pleasure I'm going to experience. So when I was in not so much physical pain, although again, it's why BDSM is so popular, because you can actually get to a point where you access pleasure and pain at the same frequency of turn on, basically, in your body. So, but what I'm trying to say is we're conditioned to believe pain is bad. For some people, pain is like the most exhilarating experience, which is why BDSM and kink networks actually exist. So we have been told that pain is bad, and often it's because our parents or family or society, like you stub your toe and your mum's like, oh, baby, are you okay? Did that hurt? Or how did they know that was meant to hurt or feel a certain way? So, yeah, once you sort of grasp that, great. But also when it comes to emotional pain, the biggest thing that helped pull me through moments of, when I first felt emotion, I actually thought I was going to die, because for 38 years, I was so locked down. I didn't cry. No, I'm 38 now, so 32 years. I didn't cry. I didn't really feel emotion. One of the reasons I started doing the work was because I actually then realized I couldn't hold on to happiness. I would feel it for fleeting moments, but I couldn't like hold happiness in my body. I couldn't really explain what it was. But because I was pushing away my pain, pushing away my tears, pushing away any experience, because my childhood was so painful, that I didn't then allow myself to feel any of the opposite side of the coin, because I'd gotten the coin and I'd thrown it out years ago. I'm like, well, I'm not experiencing any more pain, but it also meant I wasn't experiencing any more pleasure. And so I use that analogy as well, because I think we label pain or sadness or anger or physical pain as bad or wrong, But when you can start to reframe it as that's just an experience that I'm having, and either I can experience physical pain as pleasurable, as some people do, or I can take my emotional pain and be with that because I know it's going to liberate me into ecstatic bliss and ecstatic pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you've brought that in, because I was so emotionally numb when I was making my first business build, because in my mind, I didn't have time to feel emotion. It was a waste of energy. It was a waste of time. And it literally cut me off from my joy and my pleasure and my happiness and everything good in life. And I literally lived in an existence of being numb. And I thought that was good. I thought because I could hold this frequency or this level of sameness that's what made me a badass businesswoman, because I didn't get emotional and but I was numb. I couldn't feel anything. I was completely shut off to life, actually. I was just existing to make money.
Ooh, that is so deep. And so I can resonate with it so much, because one of the things when I was maybe re-entering my success path was I had experienced this pretty steep downturn. And so you really can't avoid the feelings at that point. I mean, you might be able to, and trust me, I tried, right? But they all outlasted me. So regardless, like each month I'm like, nope, not feeling that, or nope, not dealing with that, or whatever. They're ready. They're 2 steps ahead waiting. And all of a sudden I'm feeling things and I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like, absolutely terrible. Like I feel it right now, because it's like, this is what I was blocking in order to get to where I'm getting. And like, is that even worth it? Right. Like, and I almost wore it like a badge of honor, right? That I could stay within this, like, emotional bandwidth, like bumper rails, right? Like, oh, nope, that's not getting me. When in like, it probably should have, and it probably would have made me an even more successful businessman at that point. Yeah. And so my only way of getting back to the level of success that I wanted to was to realize that now, because I have felt those feelings, I can't not feel them anymore. And I even think I feel them way more than, it's almost like I'm double downing, like I'm a double stuffed emotional Oreo, because like I have so much emotions now to where I get to, right? At first it was a have to, but I get to decide, like, is this truly that big of a deal? Can I sit with this now? Can I have this be part of my experience, rather than just like Block City, not letting anything in and having that be a huge detriment? Because I think, feelings and thoughts and pain, they're all indicators, right? They're actually there to help us. Pain is good, right? If we didn't have pain and you stubbed your toe in that example earlier, at 36 or 38 or whatever, you probably have no toe if you didn't have pain. Really? You would have stubbed it so many times. And so, I treat emotions and the ever-changing, thoughts and feelings that I'm having as indicators, and then an opportunity to be like, oh, should I feel like this right now? And if I should, then I welcome it. And if I shouldn't, I sit with it so that I can let it go.
I love that. I love that so much. Yeah. And it's true. It's just an experience indicating to change. All of our emotions are telling us something. The pain on your toe is telling you something, like, pay attention, dickhead. But we label it as good or bad or right or wrong. And that's the problem. It's not the emotion or the feeling or the experience itself. It's what the story we've attached to it. It's what we've made it mean. I love that. Kev, I could chat to you forever, but we both have boundaries. So I would love for you to, what would you want to leave anyone with that's listening that might be in a season of doubt or on the verge of change? Maybe they are at the peak and they're sitting there thinking, shit, I actually want my life to be better and different. And what would you say to people that want to unmask themselves and to step into more truth in their life and business?
Give yourself some grace and remember who you are. Really remember who you are, because your surroundings, the people you are hanging out with, the thoughts that you have in your head, everything may be telling you the opposite of what you know deep inside of you, who you are, what you are meant to accomplish. Like, it might be you against the world.
Yeah.
But that is okay, because you are always going to be with you. You can always have your own back. One of my sayings is, you could have nothing and still have your own back. Always. No matter what, there's no questions about it. You may not be skilled at that. You may not be experienced in putting yourself first and asking yourself what you need, but you can't really show up for the world and show up for your goals and show up for your family and show up for your business if you can't be showing up for yourself.
Really.
So truly give yourself some grace and be your biggest fan. And if you do that, you can accomplish anything.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you for your depth and your truth and your honesty. I love that I could feel and like witness you feeling yourself in those experiences. So thank you for the way you show up in the world. And thank you for the work that you've done to become the man that you are. And yeah, I just want to give you so much grace and so much love as you continue to deepen.
Thank you so much. Giving you a big hug from across the world. And I hope to see you and meet you one day. I'm sure we will.
I'll be in the States a lot next year, so I'll hit you up.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and thanks for what you do, and keep doing the good work.
My pleasure. Speak to you soon. Big love.
Thank you for listening to Unmasked Founders with me, Leslie Kay. Follow Leslie Kay on social media for more insights, and we'll see you in the next episode. You can find me at Leslie with a Z, Kaye. Check the show notes for how to spell my name. Remember, true success is built from the inside out.